Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. We're here today with the Wood Elves. We are going to be taking on Bretonnia, hence the heavy tree build. We're actually on Marbad's Tomb, which is a very interesting map, has lots of terrain blockages. Each of these sort of little cairns counts as a terrain blockage, as well as the large terrain blockage back here and everything, so should be quite interesting for my army. I've got the Ancient Treeman, 5 Eternal Guards up front with the Wardens of Kithral and Winterheart Guards protecting the backline. We've got 1 Hagbane Tip, 1 Starfire Shaft, Treekin, Firebark Elders, and another Treeman with the Regiment of Renown Azrai Spears as well, those Loex Tricksters. For my opponent, he's got some Mounted Yeomen with Knights of the Realm and Knights Errant on this side. Going to be a similar group of Knights over on the far side. Looks like an extra group of Knights of the Realm over here. We've also got Alberic here supporting the Knights of the Lion-Hearted. Damsel, Lore of Heavens, no healing this time, instead going with Lore of Heavens as this is a nice wide build with no real expensive units. For Bretonnia's side, lots of men-at-arms here, a few Battle Pilgrims mixed in, some Pox arrows as well. So yeah, should be pretty solid. You can see I'm pushing up, trying to use these terrain blockages as much as possible to protect against cav charges from the side and rear. So to that effect, we're going to kind of pull up and start to set up some defensive lines here. I was hoping I could maybe isolate these cav from the rest of this main force here and take them out sort of piecemeal, but unfortunately they did manage to squeeze up and around here. There is a pathable area for them to go, so yeah, they're going to get up and through. At the same time, though, we should be able to get in range with the Starfire Shafts and the Hagbane Tips to start to unleash a little bit of, you know, volleys and so forth. So we'll see. Yep, looks like here it comes. Of course, the Starfire Shafts in particular will do quite well here with the armor-piercing damage. The poison will slow them down, so they'll be able to get more hits in. But Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis, interestingly enough, one of the few units of cav that actually has a silver shield, 55% missile block chance. Of course, that only really counts for when they are facing towards the enemy, but still, very interesting to note. At this point, my opponent's going to start to take his time a little bit to be very patient. We're going to start to move forward a little bit here and drop a few volleys on some various units just because, you know, this isn't technically a tournament battle, but I try and stay roughly within the tournament rules when I play quick battles, and, you know, we do still need to be attacking and so forth, so we're going to come forward, unleash a couple volleys here. My opponent, I see, he is trying to go for a major envelopment here, going nice and wide with these calves, just scouting through the woods, making sure I have nothing hidden back here, which is a very smart play. It's a relatively small map, so it is quite easy to spot things and just do some quick scouting, you know, make sure that the map is basically clear. At this point, my opponent can see that I don't really have too much else, so we're going to fast forward just a little bit as he starts to bring his forces into position here. We're going to get the engagement underway. So the peasants bravely making their way forward first. We're going to use the treemen to kind of act as a line breaker here. He's going to come forward and start to administer a royal beatdown on these poor peasants here. They're going to just push past them though and try and get in on these Eternal Guard. The rest of the peasants now following up as well. We've got the knights coming around the back line with some mounted yeomen supporting. They're going to try and get back through these gaps and see if they can't get on top of these ranged units here. But for the time being, we're going to open up shots on these Knights Errant who are currently visible. These peasants, unfortunately, not going to hold their leadership together too long. Of course, under the heavy assault of these trees, they're going to turn tail and run quite quickly. Just in general, I've been using the trees to kind of keep the peasants from getting into the Eternal Guard too much, just because Eternal Guard don't trade super cost-effectively into lower-tier infantry, like state troops, men-at-arms, clan rats, that sort of thing. Yeah, you can see we're calling in an Awakening of the Wood here to debuff the Knights Errant speed here. They're down to only 21 speed with the 2 layering debuffs there. Unfortunately, the poison did just drop, but yeah, the Azrai Spear with that Loex Shroud trying to get in there. Unfortunately, they're not quite able to get full contact, but the idea is that with the double speed debuffs and their speed buff, they can actually catch up, start to get some hits, and it looks like they actually do drag down a couple of these Knights Errant here, so some good damage there overall. We're going to pull them back into a defensive position again. Meanwhile, on the front line, the trees are just absolutely making mincemeat of these peasants here. The mounted yeomen also getting caught out. A little bit unfortunate for the Bretonnian player. Treeman in the front, continuing to call down his magic. Looks like we're getting another Awakening of the Wood. I'm not sure exactly where. But yeah, you can see here Alberic and the Knights of the Lionhearted trying to push through. These Eternal Guards are a little bit overwhelmed here, and the Knights of the Lionhearted are going to be able to push through somewhat and get in on these archers in the back line, which is not great for me. They're also getting taken down by the pox arrows very cost effectively. Over here, these Knights are going to try and push this corner right here. We've got the War Dancers. They do have charge defense, so they will be able to take this charge relatively well from the front. We've also got the Winterheart Guards here as well, trying to protect these Spearmen, but unfortunately we're not braced there. The charge comes in, pretty much the full charge bonus. We do get an Awakening of the Wood at the last moment to interrupt a few of the models there and debuff their speed somewhat, but at the very least, even though we've lost the archers here, the Winterheart Guards, these Wardens of Kithral can now also move in, the Loix Tricksters. We should be able to move in now and get some good damage done. Looks like Curse the Midnight Wind in response from my opponent. I'm also dropping an Earthblood here just to try and keep these units healed up if possible. But you can see the Knights are sort of boxed in here by spears a little bit. A little bit unfortunate for me though. Mounted Yeomen cleaning up the archers there. Very cost-effective use for them. And yeah, overall, if we take kind of an overarching look here, the Treekin still holding out in the front line quite well. They'll do well against the Footsquires and pretty much everything, especially with support of the Eternal Guard there. The Knights in the back line, they're trying to break loose, break out of this encirclement here by the Elven Infantry, but the Treemen moving in. We've got the Ancient Treeman in here as well. Yep. Sorry, this is the regular Treeman. The Ancient Treeman is the one with the big stick, right? He's also casting spells. But just in general, with their AP damage, they can get in here and get some good work done against these Knights. They'll drop Terror Bombs as well. You can see Knights of the Realm and other units getting terrified away there. And just all of these angry Regiment of Renown Wood Elf Infantry, especially the Loix Tricksters and the Wardens of Kithral, both very healthy still, able to get a lot of units dragged down there. So yeah, we'll see. The peasants aren't doing too great in terms of their leadership, but a very nice rear charge here. My opponent finally able to sort of break out of that encirclement and get a good rear charge. Should be able to take out these Eternal Guards here, but again, we're using these speed debuffs any way we can. Just try and keep these Cav from getting too much damage done and doing too much cycle charging. The Awakening of the Wood, very nice speed debuff, and it also does a little bit of damage as well. So definitely something to write home about, as they say. You can see here Alberic, not sure where he got off to. Still hanging around somewhere, no doubt, but yeah, maybe. I'm not actually sure. But his anti-large, looks like he's over here. His anti-large will be able to do some good damage to the Treeman, but the issue is all of these supporting infantry. We've still got so many Winterheart Guard. There's the, the Regiment of Renown Rangers here, the Wardens of Kithral. We've got the Loix Tricksters. Awakening of the Wood, trying to stagger some of these guys and slow them down a little bit so that we can catch them. Unfortunately, it's not quite going to be enough, but there is this unit of Eternal Guard here that went on a wild goose chase after these Mounted Yeomen that's actually going to get rear charged. They'll take quite a bit of damage there, but as they turn around and start to get attacks in, obviously it's not going to be great. The anti-large armor piercing of these low-tier Eternal Guard will be very good in this matchup, as long as you don't get just massively have rear charged. Obviously the lack of armor on the Eternal Guard isn't great. 40 armor is actually okay. It's not amazing, but just in general, Wood Elf Infantry is all very light, obviously, so you don't want to get reared or side charged. But in a situation like this, where we're able to take advantage of some of this terrain blockage here and sort of funnel my opponent into a very specific situation, Wood Elves certainly are one of the factions. We've seen a couple of replays recently where they took advantage of terrain very well. I would certainly say that Wood Elves are one of the factions that excels at taking advantage of different types of terrain, whether that's terrain with blockages, very open terrain. They can go super mobile on a very open map and just pull you apart like a cinnamon roll. Alternately, they can go with a very kind of static defensive build like this to funnel you into tight spaces and just kind of grind you down in that way. They can also go with very hit and run style builds on maps that are sort of more broken up, have lots of maybe hills and forests and ridges, lots of areas to hide troops, but are also somewhat large, with good, downhill potential ambush sections. Something like Norden is what I'm thinking of specifically, but there are a few other maps like that. Wood Elves are also, of course, very good on those maps because, again, the hit-and-run style play, you can be very mobile and at the same time have good defensive positions. Just in general, Wood Elves are going to excel at taking advantage of different types of terrain. And whenever you're playing the Wood Elves, you certainly do want to take the map into consideration, I would say more so than other factions. The other faction that this is true is the Beastmen, of course, the other sort of mobile woodland faction, and the antithesis to Wood Elves. Both of them are very mobile, and I've been highlighting it. My opponent has been ripping off some very good wind blasts with that Heaven's Mage. Unfortunately, obviously not quite enough here in this late game situation. A lot of these units just getting terrified away, but yeah, Beastmen and Wood Elves both definitely can take advantage of terrain very, very well. And in this situation, again, just sort of using the blockages, funneling into sort of a kill zone and just dragging down the cavalry, not allowing, sort of disallowing them, if you will, from using their advantage of mobility. You can see Alberic finally getting terrified away there. One last Earthblood from Tree Boy chilling in the woods here, getting some extra winds of magic. So yeah, fun stuff. That will be a victory for the Wood Elves. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. In terms of the army breakdown here, you can see the Regiment of Renowned Spears here got a ton of kills, 177 respectively for the Wardens of Kithral and the Loex Tricksters here. They did very, very well. 64 kills on the Treeman himself and 82 for the regular Treeman. Ancient Treeman, of course, with the various speed debuffs and healing, also very key. Eternal Guard did okay in the front line. You expect them to take some losses, but they did all right. Hagbane Tips and the Starfire Shafts did some good initial damage to, like, these Knights of the Lion-Hearted, for example, but obviously took a massive charging to the face, which is what you can expect to happen. The Elves will just fall over if they get charged, unfortunately. So, yeah, 74 kills on the Firebark Elders, not too bad either. They were kind of just soaking up peasants the whole time. For my opponent, you can see his Knights were able to get some decent kills in some certain situations. Obviously not quite enough, but the Pox Arrows, very cost-effective. Generally think you want to try and bring quite a few archers as Bretonnia here, just because they're so cheap and they're so cost-effective. Both the Pox Arrows and obviously the Fire Arrows. I mean, granted, I have the Firebark Elders to counter that a little bit, but still, in case I don't bring them, or if the Treeman is ever away from the Firebark Elders, you can use those Fire Arrows to punish him. Just in general, though, obviously my opponent really didn't bring enough armor-piercing anti-large to deal with the trees. It's a bit of a tough pick because, you know, with traditional Wood Elf builds, you tend to think very mobile, you know, very skirmish heavy. So a build like this makes a lot of sense, right? You go super wide, you challenge them on all fronts, you have a lot of Knights to just charge out the light units. I do definitely agree with that, but then in the face of trees, you just, I mean, Alberic has anti-large, but the Knights of the Realm have a little bit of anti-large, but they don't really have enough AP to really work through the trees. I mean, maybe if you can just completely clear out all of the infantry support, obviously easier said than done, then maybe you can cycle charge the trees to death, but yeah. Interesting matchup. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.